ready to go if you're ready. There it is. Next item on the agenda, public matters not on the agenda. If there's anything that's not on the agenda tonight that's before the planning commission, if you have any comments, any public comments, not. And then the consent agenda, planning commission minutes of June 10th. I had one correction. Is there any other corrections? I had some comments on public matters not on the agenda regarding staff's variances from applicants on different projects to see what the status was and what staff recommends. I think it should all be in the recording. So anyway, I'd like to see those corrections.
Karen, did you get that?
I did.
Okay.
Other than that, we have a motion to approve the minutes. All in favor? Aye. Okay, Broad Meadows Estate subdivision continued from June 10th. Erin, you want to kick it off?
Yes, thank you. As mentioned, this item was continued from the June 10th regular planning commission meeting. Tonight before you is the Broad Meadows Estates subdivision, which was previously Golden Hills Estates Unit Number 4. It is a 10-lot subdivision. The applicant is requesting a few entitlements, and staff is recommending that the planning commission adopt a resolution recommending to the city council to certify the initial study mitigated negative declaration for the project and approve a vesting tentative subdivision map, adopt a resolution to the city recommending to the city council a general plan amendment from residential low density to residential single family, and adopt a resolution recommending to the city council pre-zoning of the parcels which are outside of the city. So as I explained previously, I'll go over just a little bit more history of the original Golden Hills Estate subdivision. It was previously approved in 2002, and there was 4 units of it. This was unit number 4, and it is pretty much identical from what was approved about 20 years ago. All of those maps have since expired. Units 1 and 2 were built out. Unit 3, which is Panner Creek, was not constructed and has since expired. And obviously here, Broad Meadows. The applicant about 5 years ago approached the city with both the Broad Meadows subdivision and the Panner Creek subdivision, wanting to process them at the same time. At the time, staff and the planning commission requested that if they are processed together, that an environmental impact report was completed. The applicant decided to separate the 2 projects and process them first, process Broad Meadows. Included in the information in the staff report is an old staff report that kind of goes over some more of the history of the previous projects and their decision on the EIR for the joint projects. Also included, since last meeting, a letter from the developer, Stan Gamble, which is included in your packet. And in front of you are resolutions from when the projects were originally approved in 2002. So Broadmeadows Estate, like I mentioned, is 10 lots that range in size from 9,500 square feet to almost 18,000 square foot lots. A portion is within the city and a portion is outside of the city and is in the county. The applicant is requesting that they be annexed into the city, and prior to annexation, they have requested a pre-zone of R1. So once a parcel has been annexed into the city, you cannot change the zoning for 2 years. So the pre-zoning prior to annexation allows them to come in and have the zoning that they want. If you went up to visit this site, you can see that one side of the street is pretty much developed with single-family homes, sidewalks, things like that. The lots on the other side of the street will match that, the sidewalks, street light at the end of the cul-de-sac. They're putting in a manhole, storm drains, things like that. So it will look like that street is completed. Karen, if you could pull up the zoning maps or the general plan and zoning maps, so we can see the changes that they're requesting. No. Yeah, I don't know how well we can see those, but
Make it
you
a little
can
bigger.
you can see the project location up there and how the zoning will be changing and the general plan designation will be changing. So the applicant is not asking for any exceptions to lot size. The size of the lots are larger than what is required in the R1 zoning district, which is 7,500 square feet. So I know in the past, there's been discussion of exceptions to lot sizes and setbacks and frontage. All of those meets the standards in our zoning district. So there's nothing there. And then, sorry, Karen, if you scroll to the annexation portion, you can see what will be next map. You can see what portion is within the city limits and what is outside. So the majority of this is outside of the city limits. And the annexation is initiated by the applicant and approved by LAFCO and then accepted by the city. So, and then if you could go to the map, the subdivision map, you can see what we have there. So as you can see, there is adequate building sites on the lots. They do slope down in the back, but there is still enough buildable or area to have a house of like a marketable sized house, not long and skinny, just pretty typical houses. As part of the review process, the applicant completed a mitigated negative declaration, which was then reviewed by city staff and circulated for 30 days to receive public comment. Any comments that were received were incorporated into the mitigation measures. The mitigation measures are attached to the first resolution, which recommends certification to the city council of the mitigated neg deck. And they're also included in the staff report. This project was also sent to the local tribes for review and consult, and none requested consultation, but have asked to be informed of any other development and obviously to be informed if any type of burial grounds or artifacts are found out there. This was reviewed by both agency or other departments within the city and outside agencies, and any additional conditions of approval have been incorporated into the resolutions. So for the maps, it's specifically the map, both engineering and public works conditions of approval. So I think that pretty much goes over the staff report and the project. I can answer any other questions you might have about it. The applicant is here. His representative is also here, which we didn't have last time, or had technical difficulties with last time. So we should hopefully be able to get some of those additional questions answered tonight. Yeah.
Would the applicant like to add anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Bruce Baracco. I'm the project planner for the applicant. Let me start by hopefully clarifying what Aaron said about Golden Hills Units 1, 2, 3, and 4. We consider Units 1, 2, and 3 to be one part of the Golden Hills project, and Unit 4 to be a separate, distinct part of the Unit 4. And I'll give you some dates to show you that. So the Golden Hills Units 1, 2, and 3 were approved by the Planning Commission in July of 2002. So the first thing that the developer did was to file a final map for Unit 1, which were 5 lots fronting on Ridgecrest Drive, which was part of Sutter Crest. No improvements were required, and the final map was filed with the county. So that occurred in 2002, maybe 2003. Then Unit 2 was started construction and was completed in December of 2006. Also, as part of Units 1, 2, and 3, a subdivision improvement agreement was required that spelled out in more detail the subdivider's requirements in constructing the subdivision. The subdivision improvement agreement was approved by the City Council in December of 2004 and was recorded with the county recorder in April of 2005. So that set the parameters then for Units 2 and 3. Unit 2 was constructed. All subdivision improvements were put in, and the subdivider started building lots. Let me just give you some dates, though, on what this subdivision improvement agreement required. It required completion dates for Unit 1 of June 30th of 2005. It required Unit 2 to be complete, all improvements to be complete by December 30th of 2006. And Unit number 3, now called Panner Creek, was required to be completed by December 30th of 2008. So in retrospect, a very short time frame for subdivision developments, and probably it would have probably been the fastest subdivision ever built in Sutter Creek. So as the improvements were being completed for Unit 2, the crash occurred. And we've talked about that kind of ad nauseum, but the subdivider was not able to complete all of the houses under construction as part of Unit 2. This would be Silkworth, the north portion of Golden Hills Drive, south side of Broad Meadows Drive, and yes, so that at that point, the subdivider lost the project, taken over by Wells Fargo Bank, and Mr. Gamble will talk about that. But in order to try to meet the requirements under the subdivision improvement agreement, he proceeded with the initial stages of Unit 3 with a grading plan issued by the city of Sutter Creek for the rough grading of the access extension of Golden Hills Drive. And that's where the oak tree removal part came into the picture. So with the shutdown of the project in 2008, then everything sat there, especially for Unit 3, which is where it is today. I had a couple other, interestingly, the initial study that was done for Golden Hills, Units 1, 2, and 3, was prepared in 2002, June of 2002, and it called for a 53-acre site developed into 67 single-family residential lots and 3 multifamily lots with a total of 50 townhouse-type units. So we kind of forget about these things, but that's where that project started, 67 single-family and 50 townhouse units. The Planning Commission, in their approval of Units 1, 2, and 3, took the townhouse units out of the project. So that left single-family homes only. Also, we did some fact checking on, and one of the questions that came up last month was the tremendous number of residential lots that are available to build on in Sutter Creek. As far as I know, this is the only active subdivision in the city of Sutter Creek. There are no other subdivision proposals currently being considered by the city. We also took a look at the actual construction that we've experienced over the last 14 years. So since the 2010 census up until now, 14 years, a total of 16 single-family homes have been built and 1 duplex has been built. That's the sum total of all the new construction in the city of Sutter Creek. So 1.2 units per year, not exactly a landslide. Also, the reason that we consider that Unit 4, and it could have been called anything, could have been called Broadmeadows at that time, was because that project was not even applied for until after Units 1, 2, and 3 were approved. And that Unit 4, Broadmeadows, was approved by the Planning Commission in October of 2008. And as we discussed last month, it originally qualified for a categorical exemption under CEQA, under the California Environmental Quality Act. So not only did it not have any connection to Units 1, 2, and 3, which had a mitigated negative declaration, but it had no requirement for environmental review. Since then, the state of California changed the rules, and the project is no longer eligible for a categorical exemption. Hence, the preparation of a separate environmental document, a mitigated negative declaration, which Aaron referenced, and which is included in your packet. All right. I think that's all I have at this point. We'd be glad to answer questions, and I'm sure we'll get into some discussion.
I just had a quick question, Bruce. I don't believe in our packet we had the original 2002 environmental documents. Negative deck.
Yeah, I don't know that you do, but it only included Units 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, it wasn't this section.
What?
It wasn't this area in 2002.
I know that, but we wanted to review that document too. And we don't have a copy of that with the city?
I have a copy of that.
Oh,
It's,
okay. All right. You know, anyway, I won't comment right now. We'll take other, did, Mr. Gamble, did you want to speak?
and we could certainly make that copy available. Sometimes it's hard to find things down in the city archive, but
Okay.
Thanks, Bruce. I won't want to go over what Bruce has already said, but basically I was the original developer for Golden Hills Units 1, 2, and 3. I did tune into the video last month's meeting. There seemed to be a lot of misinformation about what the public perceive. And now we know perception is reality. But the reality is I did perform on Units 1 and 2. The streets were accepted by the city engineer. The water district accepted it. The sewer department accepted it. The fire department accepted it. Everybody accepted it. So I did perform. No community development, CDF, which is a community development facilities, was required under the conditions of approval for Golden Hills Units 1, 2, and 3. So if it wasn't required, how could I do it? Basically, when the market tanked, Wells Fargo Bank called the loan based on the precipitous drop in value. At that time, I'd put all of the street improvements in for 31 lots, which I've just said accepted. I was halfway through building the homes, so I suggested to Wells Fargo, I'll give you guys net proceeds and I'll finish the project. They said, no, we don't do that. So what did they do? They foreclosed and they did exactly what I suggested. They employed somebody else. Regarding Unit 3, as Bruce said, I got a grading permit. If there's any trees that need to be planted, when we eventually get an approval of Unit 3, which is now Banner Creek Estates, we can put those trees in. Unit 3 always had parkland. That parkland was for mitigating Units 1 and 2. It was never going to be put in until Unit 3 was approved. I can't get that parkland approved until you guys approve the tentative map for Banner Creek, which we submitted 2016. We have done all of the reports, even including the 100-year floodplain. We have everything ready to go. We just need this one out of the way, please, one way or the other, so that Banner Creek can move ahead. And I will dedicate that parkland to you. There is a bridge across Sutter Creek, which is on my personal property, or the Trafalgar's property, which I can give you access to. So you will have access to that parkland prior to Banner Creek street improvements all being put in. I hope this clarifies the situation with the public as well as with you, commissioners. Thank you.
I guess I'm a little confused. Unit 4, Broadmeadows, is owned by somebody else, not you, Mr. Okay. Are they here tonight, or do they want to speak?
That's a good point, Mr. Chairman. And another reason why they're two separate projects is because they're separate owners. Okay. The Broadmeadows Estates project are owned by two gentlemen, not the subdivider or the developer. So that's Mr. Mabry and Mr. Trujillo. They are the property owners and the actual applicants for Broadmeadows. Mr. Gamble, through his company, Trafalgar Homes, was the applicant for units 1, 2, and 3.
Gotcha. And why were Unit 4 and Banner Creek bundled together with two different owners?
I'm sorry, say again?
Well, originally they were applied for together, Banner Creek and Unit 4.
Yes, because the property owners were all working together.
Okay. Thanks. I'll open it up. Any public testimony? Open the public hearing.
Mark Koenig. I'm at 230 Golden Hills Drive. So Some of the things that were brought up previously were two concerns that I have very much concerns about. We all have concerns with traffic. But the two concerns I have are water supply and sewer. In 2005, Mr. Gamble did request from the city 10 additional sewer service lines to be proposed along Golden Hills Drive and Broad Meadows that would serve what is now called Unit 4. In the mitigated negative declaration dated January 2024, it's noted that city sewer line improvements will be required at the Main Street Gopher Flat Road intersection in order to service Broad Meadows. Is this going to be done before the project gets started? Is it going to be done at the same time the project's going to be started? What impact is it going to have on us that live there already? Secondly, dated December 12th, 2023, the Amador Water Agency wrote to the city of Sutter Creek. On December 11th, 2023, the Amador Water Agency received an application referral for the Broad Meadows Estates subdivision, and then it goes down what the subdivision is. I won't read all of that. The first statement in their consideration is AWA has determined that currently reliable water treatment and storage capacity to serve the development and AWA's existing customers and commitments is severely limited in this system. Those are my two concerns, water and sewer. We seem to have a problem with both of them going on right now anyways. To add an additional 10 units to this seems like it's going to be a little bit much until the water agency and the sewer agent, this district, gets their act together. Thank you.
Are you, can I get other public comment before you read?
Well, I think I would prefer we handle these one at a time so we don't get mixed up like we did last month. If,
It's funny,
if it's okay, Mr.
when I
Chair.
make presentation before the city council, I can't say anything until everybody's got a chance to speak, so. Anyway, anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Frank Cunha, Sutter Creek. I was a planning commissioner for the city of Sutter Creek for 16 years, from 2004 until 2020. I attended every single meeting relating to Golden Hills. Bruce says Golden Hills Unit Number 4 was never part of the project. If you look at the packet on page 282, there is a letter in there that states that they requested, the developer requested that he put in sewer lines for 10 lots on the north side of Broad Meadows. The city engineer at that time, Grant Reynolds, responded to that letter. I do not have a copy of the letter that they sent, but I have a copy of the letter that was sent from the city in 2005. So clearly this project has always been Golden Hills Phase 4. When we started hearing from when I came on to the Planning Commission in 2004, the project was already approved. But there was a lot of discussion on the development agreement and so on and so forth, a lot of city council meetings. At that time, the developer owned not only Golden Hills 1, 2, and 3, but he also owned 2 lots below Panner, what's now called Panner Creek, which one of them was supposed to be dedicated to the city. He also owned Powderhouse Estates. Excuse me. The developer at that time promised everything you could imagine to the city of Sutter Creek. A bridge over the creek, walking trails from Golden Hills and Sutter Crest into town, you name it, it was promised. You can see what has happened in the last 20 years. The only reason this developer is here today is because there is no one here except for Bruce and I and the developer that was here when this project was brought forth. So if you have questions, I'm sure to answer them, but I do have some other things that I'd like to bring up. Tanner Creek and Broad Meadows was submitted to the city some years ago as two projects, okay? They were told that they would need to pull Tanner Creek so that they could come back, and they could come back with Broad Meadows. It's funny that although Tanner Creek is not supposed to be discussed today, the traffic study that was done for Tanner Creek is the traffic study that is used in this document in 2018. How can these two projects not be co-joined when they're even using documents from Tanner Creek in their application? This developer also wants to add 5.03 acres to the annexation. This developer came back, I can't remember the exact year, I believe it was in 2011 or 12. Wanted to then build Broad Meadows and 40-some additional townhouses on the 5.3 acres. There's no need to annex these extra 5 acres for this Broad Meadows project. That's just plans that this developer has had since he started this project. It is clearly an attempt by this developer to circumvent CEQA. If he is allowed to piecemeal these projects, he should be required to pay all legal costs associated with any lawsuits that might result from these projects. The city owes this developer nothing. He failed to pay park and recreation fees, which he claims he didn't owe. That's because somehow he got a condition of approval that stated park and recreation fees and all other fees wouldn't kick in until phase 3. Very sneaky. Phase 3, as you know, never came in. City never got their bridge, never got their park. If this developer, excuse me, he also cut down hundreds of oak trees. If you go back to Google Earth, look at pre-2002 and what that site looked like, you will see the amount of trees. Many, many heritage oaks, which are oak trees over 16 inches. Some of the stumps are still available to see. He never planted one single tree. He says, well, that's supposed to be done at the time of building permits. Who applied for the building permits on all the lots that he completed? Trafalgar. He owes the city money. There's no doubt about it. If he truly was a good neighbor, he would have made up those fees that he owes. He failed to complete numerous conditions of approval. This developer has proven that he cares nothing about our city or our neighborhood. He has not only not paid required fees, not met many conditions of approval, but also has never cleared his property of weeds after it was posted by the Sutter Creek Fire every year. After speaking with Chief Marino today, Fire Chief, Sutter Creek City Chief, he confirmed that Tanner Creek was not cleared of hazardous materials to his satisfaction, as stated by Mr. Gamble in his letter to City Manager Tom DuBois. Also, the owners of the property where the 10 lots are proposed has never once cleared their property of hazardous materials.
Sorry to interrupt.
These-
The 5-minute time limit has expired.
These are not good neighbors. We owe them nothing. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name's Robert Burge. I have lived at Golden Hills Drive and Gopher Flat Road, which was Shake Ridge Road, since 1976. I have been involved in this with 10H since 1990. I sent a letter out to my neighbors showing that I've been dealing with this since that time. I have documentation that I've been before the city council, the planning commissions, and everything that I agreed to originally never took place. That subdivision was not supposed to be a straight thoroughfare from Golden Hills Drive all the way to Ridge Road. That was the plan once they secured my portion of the property. I was forced, and at that time, being younger, didn't know, didn't have representation, was told it wouldn't do any good because I was up against TNH. It was the good old boy system. I have the names of the people right here that were on the city council at the time, and I have the documentation of the meetings and the comments that I've gone in and addressed. So I have been involved in this since day one, before Stan, and I may have been involved before Barack Obama, or Barack Obama. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go political on you. But anyway, I have so much information, so many maps that have changed. And right from the beginning, when I came into the city council and accepted TNH's desires for the subdivision, it was supposed to be a gentle rolling as Sutter Crest West was through the hills with cul-de-sacs. And I agreed to that. Once they got my property, and then Stan began purchasing other properties to come back, and then had addition to those. He purchased the Oneto property, and the Glavinich property. Well, that's where all these started to fall in place and become different things. Meadowbrook is the Westerman property, Glavinich. Okay, that came in later. So he was able to do more with the maps once he had those additional properties. And I just, whatever you decide, the city council decides, it's never done any good to address it. So you're going to do what you feel you need to do, and you're going to do whatever you feel the city needs you to do, or the area, because it's never looked at anything than how they left me. Okay? So I've got a lot of information. I have several maps. That thing out there has come up so many times. But when they changed it from cul-de-sacs and nice rolling over the hills and put that Golden Hill straight through, and their plan was to hit Ridge Road and go to 16, I didn't want to be on a freeway. But once I gave up my property, things changed. It wasn't what they agreed with me at all. And P&H never formally finished or completed what I agreed with them. Stan did. He was upstanding. He has dealt with me, and we have talked, and he is a more honorable person than T&H ever thought of being. So he got stuck with that metal, that little piece of property there where he wants to set these 10 lots. He got stuck with that because the economy went crazy. He tried to save it. I understand he sold it he had a friend purchase it to save it. So he was doing everything he could to keep things going forward. And he was even dealing with me at that time, even afterwards. We talked, it's been within the last 5 years we've even spoke, because with Amy Gidney, I was a friend of hers too. So I was understanding where Amy was coming from, and I was understanding where Stan was coming from. And they butted heads. They did not like each other. So I don't think anything was resulted in a good conversation because of their dislike for each other, which is unfortunate, because we need to go back to its property. It needs, whatever needs to happen. You cannot stop the growth. That's what I've learned. I addressed it to my neighbors. I'm through losing sleep over this. It's 1990, not 90s. I've been involved in this since 1990. And I've had all of this population come in on top of me. I moved there to get away from it all. It was a nice little section of property all by myself.
The 5-minute time limit has expired.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, well, Bruce, did you want to respond to anything before I close the public hearing?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In July of 2019, the city of Sutter Creek adopted an updated general plan. Also included a circulation element, land use, all of the elements that are required to be in a general plan. So the circulation element in particular became the basis for, or should I say, reinforced the basis for the Golden Hills project by establishing Golden Hills Drive as a collector street between Gopher Flat, Shake Ridge on the north, and Sutter Creek Road on the south. So as far as in the reference to the TNH design from the original days in the 1990s, that design did not allow for a continuous street between the two I just mentioned, Gopher Flat and Sutter Creek Road. So you have to work with what you're dealt. And what this project's been dealt with since July of 2019 is a whole new updated city general plan and city requirements, which the applicant has tried very hard to prepare and to respond to. Let me start with Mr. Koenig, with Mark. There is a condition of approval in Broad Meadows subdivision proposal to do sewer upgrades at Main Street and Gopher Flat Road. This is simply a condition of approval that has been determined to be required by the city sanitation engineer, and it's simply part of doing business when you do a new subdivision development. So I don't see anything there that's unusual or would prevent the improvements from being made or anything like that. The water picture is changing almost monthly. We've been working with the Amateur Water Agency now for about a year and a half. Through a couple of smaller projects, the water agency has been able to increase the availability of water in the what's called the Tanner system, which serves Sutter Creek, Dry Town, and Plymouth. At last count, there were about 82 hookups available, first come, first served. And I think there's been some additional water availability hookups based on other old projects that will never see fruition. We've been told by the water agency that once the city approves this tentative subdivision map, then the subdivider is eligible to apply to the water agency for a will serve letter. That will serve letter will then be evaluated by the water agency, and if water is available, as I indicated, then those 10 of those hookups would be allocated to Broad Meadows. So we're pretty positive and confident that that will be able to take place. Like I say, this is the only subdivision in Sutter Creek right now. There is one other project, Danco, which is the No Place Like Home project on Bowers Drive. It's even in line ahead of the Broadmeadows project because it has state funding. But other than that, there are no other projects that I'm aware of. I once went into a motel and I checked in at the desk. I said, Barack checking in, and the clerk said, oh, Barack Obama. So that's been used before. It does roll off the tongue. Frank Cunha made an interesting comment that said that the subdivider failed to complete any of the conditions of approval. I wrote it down. That's what you said. What'd you say? Oh, all of the conditions. Okay, Mr. Gamble can talk about that a little bit. Tree planting. All lots in Unit 2 had oak trees planted and as approved by the city on each individual lot after the houses were built. Unit 1 didn't require any mitigation. Unit 2, the trees were put in place, the oak trees were put in place as part of the mitigation. So that was accomplished, and that was done on all of the lots. All of the lots that had houses built on them at that time. The original traffic study that was prepared by K.D. Anderson and Associates looked at both Broadmeadows and Panner Creek at the request of the city manager in order to see what the longer-term impacts of those two projects would be. Because at the time we were trying to figure out whether or not the creek crossing would need to be built sooner than phase 3 or whether it could be deferred to phase 3. So the traffic study, which is included in the environmental document as Appendix H, shows that with Broadmeadows by itself, there is no impact to Gopher Flat Road. The level of service would remain the same. With the addition of 39 lots from Panner Creek, the impact to Gopher Flat Road, without building the creek crossing, would be level of service B, which is still acceptable by the Amador County Transportation Commission in terms of traffic impact. So in effect, both of those projects can be built and only have access north to Gopher Flat Road. Now, is that a good answer? No, it's technically correct, but definitely needs to be, there needs to be a connection to Sutter Creek Road as part of the overall project. And that's what's always been in the plan. The 5 acres that Frank referenced, that's Mr. Mabry's property. That's called a remainder under this proposal. It's very clearly described and discussed in the environmental document that 5 acres is not a part of this project. It's not a part of this subdivision. Mr. Burge didn't want to be annexed. That's not a part of this project. And so we've been through all those iterations of what would happen on that, both the Mabry property and the Burge property, and the bottom line was leave it as it is. Okay, I think that's all I have for now. Thanks.
Thanks. Oh,
I'd like to respond to some of the remarks from Mr. Kahuna. True, he's been around for a long time and he knows the history, but I'm not asking for any favors, never had. I have paid every single in fees. If he doesn't think I have, maybe you should go to maybe you should go to city clerk and look through records. I have completed all conditions of approval for Golden Hills Units 1 and 2. Regarding any pathways, no pathways were required for Golden Hills Units 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pathways were required for another project I was trying to do called, what the hell was it called again? Powder House Estates. I proposed pathways from Sutter Crest East down to Eureka Street. That project got foreclosed and taken over by the Indian Concedo. I have done everything in my power, both mentally, physically, and financially, to keep this afloat. So you are dead wrong, Frank, and you did very well buying 2 of my lots in foreclosure.
All right, any other public comments?
I found it Frank Cunha, Sutter Creek, found it interesting that Bruce said that there was oak trees planted on all of the lots. My neighbor Mark doesn't have, he has a unit, one of the units, there was never an oak tree on his lot. My neighbor on the other side never had an oak tree on his lot. Back when this project was brought forward, as phase 4, I asked Bruce Baracco, and he and Mary Beth, the city planner at that time, went out and counted oak trees and found that there were no oak trees planted. So I find it really interesting that he's claiming that there was an oak tree planted on every one of these lots. Okay. The other last thing I want to say is the city made a huge mistake when they approved Golden Hills 1, 2, and 3. I was at the city council meeting. I urged them to have this developer bond for all of the conditions of approval. And at that point, the city manager at that time said, oh, we don't need to have him bond because I have a letter from his bank stating that he's solvent. Well, we saw what happened. So if this is approved, please recommend that he bonds for everything. Thank you.
All right, any other public comment? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any questions from the planning commissioners?
On that, there's a letter from Stan Gamble saying everything that he's done. Can we confirm that that is true? That he has fulfilled all of the requirements? I mean, how do we go back and check and make sure that everything's been done? Everything has been done for the requirements. His letter's on page 44.
Well, the other document in the packet was the history of this, and there were a lot of things that were not conditions of approval that were not met. And I don't know if there's additional ones, but I know a bit about oak trees, and I know if there was an oak tree planting, I would notice it. And I don't think there's many oak trees planted, but I don't know what the conditions say on that one. Is it the responsibility of the developer, the person that's building the house? I don't know how it works. So.
Mr. Chairman, to clarify, Bruce Baracco again. In this tentative map for Broadmeadows, the condition of approval requires the subdivider to plant 1 blue oak tree
25 gallon
on each lot at the time of housing construction. So that's a little bit different than the historical situation, which was much looser and did not specify who was supposed to do what.
Thanks. Appreciate that clarification.
And to Lisa, I think everything is correct. The only question I have, and maybe Bruce can clarify, I think there are 2 park fees. And again, part of this was to build a dedicated park. So when it says all the park fees have been paid, I'm not 100% sure if they mean one park fee, but not the other.
Okay,
Because there was an in lieu in terms of providing the land in Unit 3.
okay. It just seems like there's people don't agree over here on what's been done and what hasn't been done.
I mean, the other things in the letter, I don't see anything. I don't know if Aaron, you have comments?
Yeah, what Tom said, I think is correct. I think the way that we see this, staff and both Tom and I and the city engineer in reviewing this and Unit 3, Panner Creek, the majority of the infrastructure fees, public improvements are really tied to Unit 3, Panner Creek. And so there is not a ton, there's really not any, there's no street improvements that are being required. I think we've requested that they, just put a new seal over the city street, just to that portion of it to help make it last longer. But it's all in place, but it's Panner Creek that has the big improvements.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we know that that's coming down the line too? Or do we?
It's on hold now. I mean, the applicant has said that they want to begin again with it.
Okay.
It's a much more complicated development. Location, environmental impacts, some costly improvements.
Right. Okay. And then we're not going to violate CEQA if we approve one and not the other? Because at one point, wasn't this whole project not approved because they were together a couple years ago? So there were some drainage issues or something?
Yes, so they were trying
Okay.
the city was or the applicant had applied for them at about the same time. They were being processed the same time. And the city at the time said, we want these to be processed, the environmental review to be completed together. And it would be an EIR versus a mitigated neg deck. And that is when there was appeals. The applicant appealed staff decision, appealed it to the planning commission. The planning commission didn't accept the appeal. And then it was sitting there for a little while. The previous city manager and I met with the applicants and said, we are willing to move forward with the applications, one application, as long as the other one is fully on hold until whichever one you pick is approved.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I've been around long enough to know quite a bit about this project and what was done and what wasn't done. And it's kind of disappointing that the city wasn't more on top of things and taking care of things more professionally. We had city leadership at the time with a city manager that was very naive, would agree to just about anything, and we ended up with a lot of bad projects and a lot of wasted money and time. And I know in this particular project, when the great oak removal was done and the pioneered road down to the creek, there was no erosion control done. And I assume Stan owned it at the time. And if he was on top of things, engineering and development, but there were huge gullies that went all the way into Sutter Creek. I think probably there was a complaint to the Water Quality Board, and that's the only way it got corrected, because the city engineer didn't deal with it, city staff didn't deal with it, and those are some bad memories I have of this particular project. The other issue I've had all along is you have a overriding document, whether it's a EIR or a mitigated negative deck, and you're mitigating impacts. That's what they do, whether it's an EIR or a mitigated negative deck. And one of the things that it required was the road connection to Sutter Creek Volcano Road. And it seems like everything's been done in this subdivision. I know the economics, building subdivisions is not an easy task anymore. And it probably never was. But you have an environmental document to say this is going to be done. It isn't done. This project goes underwater and doesn't get built, where all the deliverables are on Unit 3. I guess in my mind, I would like to see Unit 3 come before Broadmeadows and get all that infrastructure in place and then move forward with Broadmeadows. That's the way I feel, because I felt that there's been all these promises made, but no deliverables. And I know what happened during the downturn, because I was on the planning commission when the Gold Rush Ranch was going through approval. I kept asking the planners that were working with the developer, what market do you have that no one else in the state of California has? It got approved, and then it went belly up, and then it may be back again sometime. But I think the problem is we've dealt with developers that really don't have the means to see projects through. And the only way you can do that, I believe, and I don't know too much about bonding, but if you had a bond, if you approved Broadmeadows left side versus right side road, and you have a bond to say by a date certain that the road will be built and the connector will be built, I think that's a way to kind of alleviate some of my concerns. And then one of the things I asked at the last meeting was every lot in Sutter Creek, I think I mentioned, is a duplex lot. And have you researched Senate Bill 9?
Split lots,
Right.
yes.
And you can, every single family residential lot can have a duplex on it. And
SB 9 is
I-
more a lot split, I believe.
no, you better, what I would request that maybe we do a staff report to the Planning Commission on SB 9. And then the other thing, SB 9 says that you can do a lot split ministerial, but we've had lot splits in town that
I
are
mean,
not
there's a recent
ministerial.
lawsuit, I think Huntington Beach one that put SB 9 on hold until,
That was because it was a charter city. We're not a charter city.
So applicants need to request they're put in an application under SB 9. There also is a requirement with SB 9 that areas that are historical designated and then high fire, I don't think can fall under SB 9
Right.
either. So I believe the majority of Sutter Creek does not allow for SB 9.
Because of the extreme fire.
Yes,
Is it,
let me look.
we don't know, staff doesn't know that if someone comes in to apply for a lot split?
Let me see my SB 9 notes.
I guess the only thing I think that if these lots were approved in light of what SB 9 says, they could be multifamily units. And then you do the hypothetical, you can split a lot down to 1,200 square feet and then have a duplex on each of those. So you could actually have 4 units on a single family residential. So, I mean, I've looked at all this stuff and I know not everybody builds an ADU around their house. This is kind of a worst case scenario, but I think for planning purposes, we need to understand what the law says. And so maybe we can have a tutorial from staff on that at a future planning commission meeting. Because I think these lots may qualify for SB 9 as new single-family residential. They're not in a historic district. And I don't know if we're in extreme fire. Extreme? Okay. Okay. I thought we were in moderate. I didn't know we were in extreme in Sutter Creek. So then it wouldn't apply. Then the whole city of Sutter Creek, you couldn't, SB 9 wouldn't apply. So good to know. What's that?
Standard.
I used to do that and I knew all the maps, but I don't know what the definition of Sutter Creek is. Hills are pretty light here. I don't think it would be extreme. So anyway, so I guess what I keep seeing is that we're doing this piecemeal. Oh yeah, that one went belly up, so we don't have to worry about that infrastructure anymore. Well, this is only 10 units, but you take these little bites of the cumulative impacts to the traffic, and then Bruce says, traffic's no big deal. We got a level of service B. We don't need that road. So if Panner Creek doesn't ever get built, no harm, no foul. I guess that's what the applicant is saying. So that's my quandary right now. And looking at all these conditions of approval, because the map went away, you don't have to meet any of the conditions of approval. You got to start over again on Panner Creek, I guess. Is that correct, Aaron?
Yes, so they would start over again, you know, since the maps have
Because
expired.
all those environmental documents that had all this infrastructure to be built doesn't matter anymore because it all went belly up, I guess.
Yeah, so it's this is a new application.
Okay. And so could we have Panner Creek go before Broad Meadows?
It's up to the applicant, not to us, right?
Well, if we,
And originally when this was approved, it's supposed to go 1, 2, 3, and 4 units.
right. Well, no, this was never unit 4 is what they're saying.
No, but you could put a condition of approval that the road connecting be done before Broad.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would do it. All right, those are my thoughts. Any other thoughts from the other planning commissioners?
No, I mean, you said kind of what I wanted to say. It's tough seeing this shell game kind of happening, and it's just,
Right.
it's a little worrisome.
And I guess, I mean, I could support a condition of approval of that the connector to Sutter Creek Volcano be completed prior to Broad Meadows map being vested. So
Fine with that.
okay. Because I think that would solve a lot of it. And then conditions of approval, when Panner Creek comes in, we'll do the oak mitigation. And I guess the only thing I was on the county planning commission for many years too. You put all these conditions of approval on maps and stuff, and I'm never really certain that staff goes back and makes sure they're all checked off. I mean, I saw things that I did at the county level and things were never done and you just live with it. They all look good on paper, but if you're not determined to go out and make sure all those things are checked off, they're meaningless.
I'm not saying we're perfect, but I know we try. Goes on to the
No,
building permit and the inspectors.
I mean,
and-
the
yeah.
inspectors have to make sure the conditions of approval are met. Otherwise, they're meaningless. So anyway.
And some of them go on the property, depending on what they are.
Anyway. Okay,
But, you know, we did speak to the city attorney, again, this question about like the very old environmental stuff. I mean, again, because a lot of this stuff expired, he kind of cautioned against putting too much weight into that. I think if you guys move forward with this new condition of approval, we'll probably have to just see if it's legal, I guess, because it's not on the property that's being talked about. It's on this other property with different owners, you know.
that's true.
Hmm.
Well, the only other option is why are we annexing more area into Sutter Creek when we have all this other area that's already been annexed that's available for development? That's my other quandary. We annexed 1,000 acres for Gold Rush, and now they can come in with a project and say, we're infill, because it's already been annexed into the city. We have area next to Crestview, never developed, all zoned, no map on it or anything. We have all kinds of areas that are already been annexed into the Sutter Creek. And you have to ask yourself the question, why are we annexing more area until we get the other areas developed out? So. What's that? Yeah. Anyway, those are my thoughts. So we've been warned we can't condition? Are you warning us?
I'm just saying I don't know how we do it. We'd have to check on it, I guess.
I think, my thought would be kind of get all the ideas on paper notes, continue, have the city attorney weigh in and have that information available at the next meeting.
Okay.
I think if there's anything else, like this would be the third meeting, we should get it on the table.
Yeah.
Can a requirement for a bond or something to make sure that all of the requirements are met before somebody goes belly up or?
So we talked about a bond for unit for Broad Meadows and there's really not many improvements that the cost of improvements isn't great. And so it's whether we legally can require an off-site improvement like that road or the bridge or the dedication of land to this project, even though they're not, it's not part of the project. And then really our argument that that these are separate projects being processed different times and not requiring the same environmental document is then gone. Which, I mean, the city, we can do that. I think it would change how this is processed. It would then try to tie the two projects back together, and then an EIR would need to be completed.
Could you request an EIR just on this project?
I mean, the impacts are not great enough to require an EIR. The impacts on Panner Creek probably could be.
I guess that's the problem, is if you break Panner Creek into smaller and smaller pieces, then you never need an EIR. You do 5, 10 houses at a time.
Yeah, it's less, I think, the houses and more of the improvements that are required.
I also think it's a function of time. I mean, when you're talking 10 years, 20 years, like enough time has passed that the environment, if you partially changed, right? If you tried to split these things up and do them 2 years apart, then I think it'd be very obvious and that, the EIR would be needed under CEQA. But I think what's kind of tricky here is you're talking about a very long period of time. And so it's just something to think about, right?
Well, I would be in favor of denying this project and then have it come back when 4 is really ready, after 3 is built.
If that is the case, you'd need to go through the findings and show that you cannot make them. So the findings are on, I don't have page numbers, on the staff report. Karen, if you could go to the staff report before, it's the page before the Broad Meadows Estate tentative map. That's the old staff report. I don't have page numbers on here. Probably page,
So on page 57.
no, I think it's page 13 of the staff report.
It's repeated.
The staff reports are kind of similar looking from the one from
Oh.
2022. Yeah. Has
Just
some of the,
change the dates to protect the innocent.
yeah, some of the same figures. So per the subdivision code, approval of a tentative or final map shall be approved unless one or more of the following findings are made. So A through G. And of those following findings.
So Aaron, which one do you think we should pick?
That's,
I mean, staff is recommending
There was
approval.
a-
Like, we
There
don't
was
see
a
any
time when I
finding.
was on the Sutter Creek Planning Commission back in 1990, I think, and we had a planner, Charles Field. When he did a staff report, he'd say, if you choose to approve this, this is what you need to do. If you choose to deny this, this is what you need to do. We tend to always get approve it.
well, I mean. My goal is to have worked with the applicant and get the information and the city, have city departments look at things so I can bring a item with, that I would recommend approval or conditionally approved. I wouldn't, there's only going to be a few times where I would bring something that's, I'm recommending denial. Like the applicant just wouldn't change the things I thought they needed to change. So.
So again, I understand this history and you may not like it and you're thinking about unit 3, but when you look at unit 4, they're not asking for variances, setbacks. I mean,
They're not asking for variances yet. Until
Right.
people start building on this.
well, right.
Then they'll have
But
to-
again, you look at these conditions of approval, I would ask you, what do you think that they are not meeting?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with ingress egress. So I think the second reason for that roadway was to divide some of the traffic off Gopher Flat and get it onto Church Street in Sutter Creek. I know there's been a bypass built since then, but we still have a lot of traffic on Gopher Flat. And then the other thing is 2 ways of ingress egress for fire protection too. We don't really have that there. That provided that, so.
Yeah, I understand the preference. I'm just saying, if you judge this by our ordinances and you look at what they're requesting, we need a solid finding about why you think it's not compliant.
So you have to annex into your city. It's required by law to annex into the city. We have to annex property.
I'm not sure I understand what you're getting at.
We don't have to annex into the city, do we? Do we have to have findings to deny an annexation?
Then you'd be-
This isn't just approval of a subdivision in property that's already in the city limits. It's an annexation.
So then you'd want the proposed subdivision is not consistent with the general plan, any applicable specific special community plan or the city subdivision one.
I mean, that's the simplest one because it's not consistent they're asking
As
for an
it is.
amendment to the general plan.
So you'd use A.
You know. And I think it would be in the city's best interest to work with the developer, work on Panner Creek. It's already in the city limits. It has all the deliverables. It has a lot of lots down there to provide for infill building, and then revisit this after that's done. So I just don't see a reason to annex more property into Sutter Creek when we have 1,000 acres out of Gold Rush, and we've got all of Unit 3 is already in the city limits. Why are we annexing? So do we have a motion?
You made a motion.
Did I make a?
I don't-
motion?
Yep.
I guess I can. I'll make a motion that we deny the project because of the annexation.
So I think page 66, it's an older report, but it lists the findings for annexation.
Can we not vote on this motion? Do we have to go look at the findings?
So again, I think legally it's good to have a reason if you're going to deny.
Um,
Well, it's number A. Proposed subdivision is not consistent with the general plan, any applicable specific special or community plan for the city subdivision. Or not me.
We fine with that motion or?
So that's the finding for the subdivision, right? Not the annexation.
Right.
Finding, you cannot make the finding, you cannot make the findings for the subdivision map.
So we have a motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anything else? Think so. Want to close this down?
What's that?
You want to close this down?
Yeah, do we have any other reports, anything going on? No? All right, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Aye.